Man, you need to buy yourself a gun. What? Gun? What? Like a handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jack footy cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension fund. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. We are live. This is UCY.TV. We are PrimerTime. My name is Michael.
I'm Nick, and it's good to be back here in the land of the gun-free zone.
Yeah. So, how's your gun-free zones working out for you over there?
Yeah, we haven't had a
how's your recruiting stations?
Actually, I do happen to drive by the Armed Forces Career Center that is in my town, and it was being attended to by members of an organization called the Oath Keepers. And the Oath Keepers were not your average, everyday, what is portrayed in the media out here as a redneck with a gun. These guys are mostly former military, former law enforcement, and they're out there in a very conservative mode of dress, wearing polo shirts with khaki slacks, and basically
all their 511 tactical gear.
Well, if it's not 511 tactical gear, it's definitely Black Hawk.
Okay.
So they were basically out there talking, just kind of. They were kept at an arm's distance from the actual recruiters. The Department of Defense has sent out instructions telling the recruiters to basically leave them alone. The DOD actually came out 2 days ago and said, hey, please don't stand outside our recruiting stations. So these guys were just basically standing out there, and they have a layered level of security. That's their plan for the stations. So, they're not trying not to interfere, but they want the soldiers and, sailors and Marines and the Coast Guardsmen and the Air Force dudes. They want them to know that there are people out there that actually appreciate what they do. So, it's interesting. This is a week later, or, however many days later. And I just noticed today that the most of the flags were back up at full staff. So it's back to business as normal, America.
That's right. Get back to the business. In my area, I saw the day after when the promotion came out that people were out there with firearms, which would have been Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. There were some guys that went out there, and then pretty much they shut it up. They're not doing that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And we've had reports of recruiting stations actually shutting down for the day because they had orders to leave from somebody above them. That's it. As long as you've got people outside holding guard and holding vigil, that you are not to be working.
Yeah, so basically what ends up happening is, because having been a recruiter in San Francisco during 9/11, we had situations where we actually had to move recruiters out of their stations. Basically, what ends up happening is they get recalled back to the company recruiting headquarters. So you have something that's called a company leadership team, and they'll issue you a directive to go ahead and close up your recruiting station, bring your sensitive items, which is usually your laptop and your government vehicle, and get back up to the company. It's not like those recruiters got out of work. They definitely had to keep working. They were just not going to work in that location.
Right. So they continue going out there and selling free boots to kids in high school and whatnot.
Yep. Definitely the wheels keep turning and the phones keep ringing. That's for sure.
Now, I did not hear of any arrests or anything, but I did hear of one negligent discharge.
Yes. Are you talking about the sailor?
I don't know if he was a sailor, but he had an M forgery, which would be, the civilian copy of an M4 clone, and I guess he was proudly displaying it to somebody, and went and closed the bolt and pulled the trigger and discharged around into the ground.
Oh, so you have a different one than I have.
Oh, okay. Let's give yours.
So yeah, right afterward, there was the initial fear that this was going to happen again. This is something that happens in terms of anytime somebody that's with a firearm, you're going to have this risk. There was a Navy recruiter that actually had not only the negligent discharge, but as he was in the process of doing that, he shot himself. So he's in the hospital recovering. He basically shot himself with a personally owned firearm, and it was in Gainesville. So some people who are even trained shouldn't be handling a firearm outside of doing it for official duty.
Okay, well you might have a little more a better view on this than I do, maybe some more information than I do. But after the report of the shooting that happened in Tennessee, there were the soldiers that were slain. There was a report saying that one of the soldiers who was slain actually may have been the one who took down the shooter with a personally owned Glock.
Right. Okay. So let me go ahead and clarify stuff. So first off, I think for most folks we use the term soldier kind of interchangeably. It was 4 Marines and 1 sailor who were killed by this guy. None of the other services suffered any casualties. So basically, what the story is that out of the Navy recruiting office, there is a lieutenant commander who used his own personal firearm, as well as what is believed to have been one of the dead Marines using his own personally owned Glock. Initial police reports said that they have not determined whether or not the shooter was actually injured by one of the rounds, but they were able to determine that the round, one of the rounds had left the chamber of the Glock that was found at the scene. So
something had been fired.
Right. Some, whether it was, I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being determined to be the Marine who passed away, unfortunately, because the Navy lieutenant commander, who happened to be the station commander at that facility, he had his own personal weapon on him when the police arrived.
Now, how does that fit in with regulations and rules?
So this actually poses a unique problem. Okay, so for those of our listeners who know that the Navy is very much into removing commanders at all levels, and is what normally is called a lack of confidence in their ability to command. It's kind of a catch-all term to get rid of somebody whenever the Navy decides that they don't no longer want you in that position. Could be for a poor command climate. It could be for cause. It could be for anything. I think what ends up happening is it's going to depend on the number of people in high places who say that this guy is a hero. If he doesn't have enough high-level support, it would be very interesting to see how the Navy goes about prosecuting him, because he is in violation of federal law having a firearm at a gun-free zone, which is a federal building. And all federal buildings are the same way, whether it's a recruiting station, whether it's a post office, whether it's a federal courthouse. They were all gun-free zones. So you have an individual who is obviously in violation of that, and as a leader, you would expect the Navy to come down pretty hard on him. I would say that as looking at it on paper, and then when they showed the picture, I thought, oh yeah, this guy's career is done. His goose is cooked. He's a white, middle-aged male, and yeah, I think that the
He
Navy,
carried a gun to work.
there is no more room for you, sailor.
Yeah, that's that kind of says something about today's society. Let's kind of sidetrack from this. There was a story out of West Virginia, and it kind of ties into this a little, with defending yourself. Police in West Virginia have come across something interesting. A woman who answers to only the name of Heather and has a sort of interesting job history may have, in self-defense, killed a serial killer.
Right. So, it's interesting when you see this story because, we talked earlier today about the command of the English language and that words have meanings, and certain words don't necessarily mean what they, in popular vernacular, they're not exactly understood what they have a definition in the dictionary. So I heard the term that she was an escort, and when I think of an escort, of somebody who is assisting somebody to get somewhere, not as somebody who is taking money for the application of a pleasurable experience. The news report was using the second definition.
Well, I think that would be the accurate definition, but regardless, it doesn't mean that she's not eligible to protect herself, no matter her chosen profession or what your stance on the morality of it. Maybe.
No, that has nothing to do with it. I'm more speaking about, if words have meaning, and even in a news report, I mean, we're going to definitely see that they're going to call out the fact that I believe in the story it cites that the individual who was shot and killed by the escort happened to bring that fire to and set it down on a table while he was attempting to choke her. And then during the struggle, she was able to get a hold of the weapon and then kill him with it. While she also suffered, believe it was a broken vertebrae in her neck.
Yeah, she did take some damage, but she was able to defend herself. It was a Ruger LC9 9mm that put the man down. And I hope she's able to get life and recover.
Well, the interesting thing is this should be a part of the war on women, right? You would think that this has all the elements of the war on women story. You've got a man who's seeking to exploit a woman in her chosen profession. You've got a woman who is herself unarmed until the very last minute, and then it comes to using lethal force. So you would think that at some point this should be all over somebody's political agenda, right? This is what we want to see.
Well, I'll tell you, just the fact that she used a firearm to take her out of the victimhood status, and honestly, I don't think that fits in with the agenda.
No, it doesn't, and that's what I'm saying. This will get maybe 2 days play. They're saying that this guy's possibly linked to 20 additional murders between West Virginia and Ohio.
Right, she should get a reward.
Yeah, this is a significant event. And not only is it a significant event, this woman has done something that law enforcement or the justice system has not been able to do, which was remove said scumbag from the gene pool.
Right. Now, we take that, and we've got the comparison with that with the recent events in she's got her defense. This guy created a carnage, and he got a lot of coverage. She was able to create something good for the community out of her tragedy, and it gets very little coverage. But interestingly enough, in Oklahoma, the same day that the Louisiana shooting happened, there was a family in Oklahoma that was stabbed to death. 5 people stabbed to death.
Right. This is the children. The 2 male occupants of the house.
Coverage. Right, barely any coverage.
Yeah, so I think what you're seeing is that
it has to have a certain aspect to the narrative in order to get any kind of exposure. Because when you look at it, the news is really, really biased and slanted towards the victim advocacy part of it. As long as somebody's a victim, nobody can have any questions. It's a story because it's all one-sided, and you really can't get a word in edgewise. There's nobody to come back and question the veracity of the reporting or the legitimacy of the reporting sources. When it goes to this other side of the coin, you have the shooting in the Louisiana where it's the perfect storm, where the news comes out and says, oh, this guy was legally able to purchase a firearm. Never mind that he had been previously incarcerated or involuntarily committed to a mental institution, and he's had restraining orders by a domestic cohabitant. So in any jurisdiction today, that pretty much renders you ineligible to own or purchase a firearm. So it's when the questions don't get asked, and it's just nothing to see here, move along, you got to question it, and if the sheeple don't necessarily have the wherewithal to start questioning that, and they just accept it at face value, you're going down a really, really, really dangerous path.
Yeah, I would agree with you. We're far beyond the slippery slope. We're actually tumbling at this point.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that when you look at it from the individual perspective, that woman not only saved her life, but she has probably saved the lives of countless other women that were in her situation. Whether they were working as prostitutes or sex workers or whatever it is that you call them these days.
Or hell, it could be pizza delivery drivers.
Could be.
Yeah,
it could be. But when you take a look at it, you look at the historical serial killers. What is a prime demographic that they target?
Single women.
They target vulnerable women and women without a safety net in terms of people that are looking for them or people that are carrying after them.
Women who generally don't have means to protect themselves.
Certainly. So you've got the other guy in the shooting in Lafayette, Louisiana. He's an old guy. He's known and adjudged to be mentally deficient. And yeah, you talk about somebody who should not have access to a firearm. I think that's a pretty reasonable kind of guy that you wouldn't want to have, him being able to have guns, especially if he's been threatening to people in the past. I think there's nothing wrong with that. However, I don't think that you can take and use that justification to, dismantle the ability of the average citizen to have gun based on his argument alone.
Right. His transgression should not affect the rights of everybody else. And we've got a situation in Los Angeles County where they're taking advantage of state laws and loopholes on the other side. They're always claiming that there's loopholes on the purchasing side. Well, they're about to take some fancy legislative loopholes and liberties with the law, and they are going to pass magazine restriction in Los Angeles County, and actually they're going to ban the possession of them. Magazines have already been restricted to 10-round capacities, but if you owned one that was what we call grandfathered in, made prior or purchased or owned prior to the date of the ban that came in, you were allowed to keep them. But now it looks like Los Angeles County is about to say you got to get rid of them.
Yeah, this is taking the Connecticut approach to further restrictive gun control measures. So just like in New York and just like in Connecticut overnight when they passed their New York Safe Act, you've got a whole class of citizens that are just going to become felons overnight just by being in possession.
Well, when we take a look at the New York Safe Act, which required the registration of the so-called assault rifles and the whatever sort of large capacity magazines that you had, you see that you've got a 95% non-compliance rate with that. And then if you take another look at that, the numbers of the people who did comply are somewhere in the 5,200, 5,400 range. They can't give you an exact amount, but that's what the state is estimating. About 52 to 5,400 people have registered. The interesting thing is there's 4,700 cops on that list of registered. So basically, cops registered their weapons, and nobody else did.
Yeah, well,
And I was positive that the registration on the police end was almost mandatory for them. It was a part of keeping your job.
well, yeah. Like I say, I think that anytime you live in a locality where they're going to further attempt to restrict your personal rights as a matter of their daily business, I think that that's something that should give you the clue that it's probably time to leave. Because we've talked about it before. We elect people to government to protect our rights as citizens, not to restrict our rights. So I say it again and again. People that live in Washington, Oregon, California, Illinois, New York, Connecticut, I don't feel sorry for you. If you live there and you put up with it, then you get what you pay for.
Well, this brings an interesting point up. There's a lot of people out there calling for, especially in light of the recent events, the removal of all firearms. Recently, I don't know what her name is, some fat Australian actress said that the United States needs to have Aussie-style gun laws. I'm sorry, ma'am. My rifles are next to Little Debbie's. You're going to have to come and get them. But,
she's going to go ahead and she's going to make a valiant effort to date rape Little Debbie over that.
That's right. My feelings with these increased efforts for gun control, and seriously, the knee-jerk reaction that comes with it. I think we're going to see this continue. Recently, Obama has said that the remaining 18 months of his presidency will be focused on gun control.
Right, and here's the thing: there's a segment of our U.S. government that their sole purpose as a voting bloc is to further propagate the idea and the furtherance of gun control in our government and for Americans.
Right.
And it's unique in that the overwhelming majority of said voting bloc happens to be of a certain religious, ethnic, and nationality, all rolled into one. So it's interesting to me, but a lot of folks in our country don't understand that.
Well, it could be said as plainly and as simply as "don't trust a Jew on gun control." Now, that may be overly specific, but it's oddly to the point. I defy anybody to find me a mainstream politician, and I'm talking at the national level, not necessarily a state senator from backwoods somewhere, maybe a state congressman or something. No, I'd like a national politician who holds
so basically you like a member of the
state.
U.S. House of Representatives or a U.S. Senator.
Right, that is of that faith. That I want a pro-gun Jew senator. Do we have any?
Yeah, I'm not gonna come right off the bat and throw any names out there, mainly because I don't see any.
There's none, Nick. And this is something that, it has to be addressed. The names that are for gun control every time are of the Semitic background or whatever. They're actually German and Polish and Russian last names in the end.
Yeah,
but
never mind the fact that you've got the folks who set up these organizations, throwing a ton of money behind these campaigns, whether it's a Michael Bloomberg or whether it's George Soros.
And this is something that I find to be very disturbing in light of historical facts that are perpetrated on us every day. I mean, they are placed in our face every day. Remember the 6 million. Oh my God, this intolerance is there, and we can't have this, and this is just like Hitler. We're marching everybody to the doors of the ovens. Well, you know what? The best way to not march to the door of the oven is to grab a fucking gun and say, "No, I'm not going there." But
that would mean that you have to take individual responsibility.
Right. The individual responsibility aspect is there, but you'd almost think that the people who've had this placed on them through history, the oppressed, the people who's the third generation survivors of the Holocaust, you think that they would stand up and say, "Well, God damn it, I'm not going to go into the next fucking oven. I'm going to grab the rifle and say no." But that's not really what we're getting, and so I don't think there's the fear of that. What I truly think, I really think that there's a fear of people coming to the agreement or to the realization, and then probably finally the agreement that this section of society is corrosive. It doesn't necessarily work for the betterment of the rest of society.
Well, I would just venture to say anybody who is a dual citizen has mixed loyalties, if they have a loyalty to begin with, and that goes for any country on the face of the earth. If you say that you're red, white, and blue up and down, but you've got another country on your passport, I'm gonna call the bullshit flag.
I would agree with you, Nick. And I personally find it far more than disgusting and distasteful that we have representatives at the state and at the national level that are proud dual citizens of another country.
Well, not only are they proud dual citizens of another country, but in the case of our favorite, chairman of the Democratic National Convention, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the fine German last name, she's pretty outspoken about how it is one of her primary duties to, protect and expand the influence of Israel in the United States. And I would say that's pretty treasonous from a very loose understanding of what treason actually is.
I would say it's necessary, that it's definitely counter to her mandate of serving her constituency.
Well, yeah, and you would take a look, where does she legislate from? That would happen in Florida.
That's right, and South Florida is Tel Aviv West. That's absolutely accurate.
Or New York South, as we like to say.
We've also got Ileana Ross-Layton that's in that same area that is actively working towards gun control and the removal of firearms. If we were to sit here and to name them all, it would sound like we were reading like some kind of Hanukkah poem or something.
Well, it's interesting to me because, like I said, we brought up the fact earlier that the overwhelming majority of that certain segment of our government population, government employee population, because that's what they are. Any member of Congress, any member of the House of Representatives, and in the Senate or the House, they are employees of the United States citizen. So, it's crazy to me that these people could be on record, could go to various different organizations and groups and beg for money. It's interesting that the bulk of Americans just seem to, let it go by. And I can understand if in the district that you get elected, you're gerrymandered to have a certain segment of that, which is also going through a big challenge at the Supreme Court right now. But, with Wasserman Schultz, she's the first Jewish congresswoman elected from Florida. And she's covering parts of Broward and Miami-Dade counties. So she's got Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach in her district. It's crazy.
It's a large area. It's an area that has a significant amount of wealth in it. There's political influence in that area that extends beyond the legislative area that she's in.
Well, not only that, and for one, number two, she's not a native Floridian. She is born in New York. So, that's kind of...
why would we be surprised by more carpetbaggers from New York, to be honest with you? Jesus.
Well, that's because the Southerner didn't know how to handle himself after the War of Northern Aggression.
Yeah, so we had to bring in the civilized...
That's right. We had to go ahead and re-educate the Southerner in how things that they were doing were wrong. So,
we need to work on the weekend.
Yeah.
You'll be picking up Saturday shifts from now on.
I just think that people get into this and they say, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, you're anti-Jew. Oh, you're anti-Hebrew." You're
racist. You're
exactly
the hollow threats have. And as we referred to this earlier, this the issue of Jewish politicians and gun control. This is a very simple issue. It's do you support it or not? And I'll make the challenge right now. I defy anybody to find me a mainstream Jewish politician at the national level who speaks positively on firearms rights, who has a voting record that is positive and favorable to firearms rights. I defy you to find me one.
Yeah, you're gonna be waiting for a while. But getting back to the name calling.
If it wasn't such a real issue, you'd be able to say, well, here he is. Here's Shlomo Heisenberg. He's a fine pro-gun politician, but Shlomo Heisenberg doesn't exist. So what comes now is, since they can't give you that, now you're an anti-Semite. Now you're a racist. Now you're a bigot. Now these are words that are used to shame you, to shut the conversation down, to stifle discussion.
Well, it's not only to stifle discussion. It's what we call the ad hominem attack. It's attempting to draw away the attention from you and try to erode your credibility based on an outlandish claim with dubious ability to back said claim up. So, like we said earlier, the words have meaning. And if you're going to go ahead into that, feel free. But realize that at that point, the argument you would seek to have won, you've lost, because you no longer can attack the basis of my statement, but you have to attack me personally in an attempt to draw away or obfuscate from your lack of ability to win the argument.
And at that point, Nick, I think I'll stand with you, and I'll gladly accept the slur of anti-Semite or racist or bigot or hater or intolerant at that point, because, like you said, it just proves that I win.
Yeah, but and that's a sad thing. And I think in an educated segment of the society, that may be easily understood. But when you have people who just understand that might makes right, he who yells the loudest lives the longest. That's all it takes nowadays. So for me, it's just I get real sick and tired of people who get out there and basically they advocate for another nation when they should be advocating for Americans. And here's the thing. You can ask any single one of them, are you an American? And they'll just come out with, well, I'm Jewish. Well, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, that's not an answer to the question.
No, it's not. But it's interesting in a class that I had taken while I was in college, it was identified that was the only nationality that was a nationality, an ethnicity, and a religion all in one. Because number one, you can't be a Christian unless you were, thinking that as a nationality you were a member of the Holy Roman Empire. But being Christian wasn't considered to be an ethnicity. You could be African, but African doesn't necessarily delineate a religious background, as there are many backgrounds, religious backgrounds on the continent of Africa. European was not necessarily a indication of your religion. This is, from whether you be Catholic, whether you be Protestant, whether you be Orthodox, you be any one of those three. But it's interesting to me how you could be all three of the same things merely by being a member of the tribe.
Well, and really when it comes down to it, in my personal view, maybe others will share that view with me, but I don't think that it's a race. I don't think it's a religion. I don't think it's a nationality. I don't think it's a creed or anything. I think it's a profession, plain and simple.
Yeah, well, it very well may be, because you're going to have to navigate some pretty tight caveats to operate in a lot of the places that they do. And whether it's the business of being a victim is very lucrative, and victimhood gives you a lot of room to sway. You can wiggle a little bit when you're a victim. You can make the outlandish claims. You can override somebody's rights as long as you evoke your victimhood. Well, and that's the thing. That's what kind of ties us into the young lady who shot the serial killer. She wasn't going to take herself becoming a victim. She was going to preserve her own life, and in her mind, the law of self-preservation was going to prevail. So I think that you can only make it for so long in terms of claiming that your people have been victimized and persecuted over history before you actually take a look at the facts and say, well, hey, guess what your nation has been doing to other folks in your region, its neighbors, for the last 70 years.
Right, and we see that with the current Iran deal that's coming out. There's a lot of fear porn with that. Mike Huckabee was just recently quoted. And Mike Huckabee, he's former governor of what, Arkansas, I think.
Yes, known for giving us such great politicians.
Right. Arkansas, the hotbed of Americana, right there. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep.
He comes out and says that the Iran deal is going to walk, 7 million Jews to the doors of the oven. Well, fucking let them go. Let them go. If it's so bad, why didn't they attack them with the 411 fucking nukes that Israel's got? Iran signed the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Why hasn't Israel signed it? If Iran really truly wanted a bomb, why didn't they buy one? They make oil. Oil ain't cheap. They got a lot of money. Why didn't they buy one?
See, here's the thing. I think that you can see that at certain times, whether it's a year from now, whether it's 10 years from now, whether it's 20 years from now, if the people in the Islamic Republic of Iran, if they so determine that the mullahs and the president of Iran want to get a nuclear bomb, it will happen because there are people out there in the world that will
if they wanted to have one.
Right. They'll
if they
take
wanted
a
to
price
have one
for
by
it,
now, they'd already have one.
They'll either take the price for it and get the technology, they'll import the scientists to create it, or they'll develop it on their own.
Buy one.
Yeah. So at some point, I think that what we see in the news is basic subterfuge. There's another 50-cent word.
Yeah, I like that. I like that word.
Yeah. So it's a sad thing to me, but we were assisting the Shah of Iran building nuclear reactors in the early 70s. So
that's right.
as long as it was our guy in power, they were okay. Same thing with Saddam. As long as he was our guy in Iraq, he was okay.
Right.
So,
and I think really Israel doesn't want Iran to have a bomb because then they can't claim permanent victimhood once again. They can't throw out the fear point of, oh my God, they're going to nuke every one of us.
Here's the thing.
They're assassinating scientists and military leaders left, right, and center in their own country. In the middle of Iran.
And not only in the middle of Iran, whether it's in Dubai.
Everywhere else.
Yeah, this is
on Canadian passports, on Australian passports.
Irish. Don't forget the flaming orange hair and the very pale white skin.
I believe that's called Terror Group Kurdsburg.
Yeah, Kreutzberg.
That's what that's called. That's them.
So yeah, it's one of those things where you take a look at the breakdown of the demography of the United States. There's another 50-cent word. You'll see that it's a very, very small segment of the population, but it's very, very highly representative in all levels of our government.
I would say overrepresented.
Well, if there was a way that you could determine what the appropriate affirmative action style, representative.
The numbers don't jive with the demographics of the nation.
Right.
If this is the minority, a victimized minority that's always at risk. Yeah, I highly doubt that when a quarter of the Supreme Court is, of your faith, whatever, of your profession, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And the business of that profession is putting it to the goy. So,
well, you got to look at it. Who ran the diamond trade in Amsterdam back in the day? Who ran the slave trade in Amsterdam?
Slave trade, that's right. And if we're really going to start talking about Holocaust, well, the slave trade.
But you know what? Holocaust has got a patent on it, and you're going to have to pay.
I believe it's patent number 6 million.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay to use that term. So it's one of those things where I look at it and I say, you know what? If Israel was truly terrified as a nation for their survival, you take a look at what they did to the Iraqi nuclear program back in the late 80s or early 90s.
React called Osirak.
Right. So
yeah, they attempted to take. I do believe they destroyed it.
They did. And one of the pilots that actually flew that mission was a member of the Space Shuttle Columbia mission that disintegrated in upper atmosphere. So,
Smoke one. Sorry, guys.
so it's
Trying
not
to
like
get
they're
out.
not able to take care of themselves. I do feel that
It's
they're
111. You can't take care of yourself. If you've got 12 Dolphin subs that are capable of launching intercontinental ballistic missiles that you didn't have to fucking pay for, and you can't take care of yourself, and you need Uncle Sugar to provide you with another like $4.5 trillion of cash this year, no, I'm sorry, you don't get nothing.
well, I think that most people need to go back to the
many.
yeah, most people need to go back to the Johnson tapes regarding the USS Liberty, and that should tell you everything you need to know.
I want that boat on the bottom. We need a war.
Yeah, well, you can only mistake the stars and stripes for, I guess, maybe the flag of Liberia. That's the only way I'm going to go, because yeah, the Liberian flag was modeled after the United States flag.
And there's like so many Liberian battleships and all that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So,
and especially in the Mediterranean.
So, listen, you get a chance to go out and do any kind of gun stuff this weekend or anything?
Actually, I did not. However, it's interesting to me that I'm starting to see a lot more high-end shotguns. These are shotguns that people are using at trap and skeet ranges. No less than $1,200 a piece. I think it was a Beretta Onyx that I've seen recently for $1,200.
Very nice shotgun.
Yeah,
Shotgun.
it's not a Perazzi, but this is something you don't see every day, and it just kind of got my attention.
Because it's not a Perazzi, you'll actually go out and use it.
Exactly. But it's interesting because I hadn't seen anything like that available in the last couple weeks. And onesie Tuesdays, I think times are getting tough again. Maybe it's summer and people are going on vacation and need to fund something, or people are leaving town and they need to have something to carry them over. So yeah, that was something that I saw was pretty interesting. What about you?
Well, I'll tell you what. I didn't get a chance to go out and shoot. I got a chance to take out the DoubleTap Defense 9mm Derringer. Now, this is an interesting little pistol. It's a double-action, double-barrel Derringer. Very, very thin design, kind of blocky. It's an all-metal construction. It's an aluminum frame with a steel barrel that just tips up when you pull back a couple of tabs on it. The barrel is replaceable. I happen to shoot the one that has the ported barrel, which are, for anybody who doesn't know what a ported barrel is, it's little holes drilled in the side of the barrel to release gas. And it's the intent of that is to help keep the muzzle on target, reduce your muzzle rise. Personally, I'm not necessarily a fan of that in this design, as this is a very small concealable handgun. It's very, very flat. It's extremely flat. It's about twice the thickness of a very thin cell phone. However, that shouldn't confuse you or anything, because it's got a significant amount of weight. It weighs about 19 ounces. It is all metal construction. There's no plastic on the weapon itself. Double action, it's self-indexing. So if you open it up, it will always go back to the top barrel and then to the bottom barrel. Keep pulling the trigger, and even though you've already expended your 2 shells, it will strike on the top barrel and then the bottom barrel. It's pretty ingenious system. As far as firing it, I put 10 rounds through it. Now,
how did it shoot? Was it reliable, or was it something that you might have thought, well, this isn't such a good idea?
Well, I'll tell you, it's reliable. It's got a very heavy trigger pull, an extremely heavy trigger pull, probably heavier than any other trigger I've ever pulled. And not that it's a problem or it was difficult or anything, but it was very long. And I do see the wisdom in that being another safety for this weapon that doesn't have any sort of manual safety. Your safety in this is your brain and your finger.
Oh, then we go start talking about individual responsibility. We can't have that.
That's right. That's right.
Michael, you have to think of the children.
Sometimes I forget.
Think of the children that are going to use this device.
Right. In a movie theater or something. Right?
Yeah, go figure.
So anyhow, it's a 2-shot deal. I got 10 rounds out of it. and surprisingly loud report from it. I think that's due to the porting and then the short barrel. I mean, it's only got I would say it's a 2.5-inch barrel on it. It's very, very short. The thin design of the pistol actually focuses all the recoil and all the force back into the webbing of your hand. So you definitely know it was there.
Yeah.
And,
you might suffer a little bruise.
No. Actually, no. There's no bruising to my hand right now. There's no discomfort to my hand. I know that I fired it today.
So you've got some hot spots or some little bit of tenderness there.
I wouldn't even call it a tenderness. I just know I'm aware it's there. Like maybe it was like similar to picking up something that was a little bit too heavy, a little tiny strain or so. But that thin design seems to focus the recoil right into the web of the hand. So it's not necessarily a plinking tool. I fired it enough to feel comfortable with it, knowing that it will discharge again. I don't think I'll shoot it a whole lot. I definitely think it will be carried far more often than it is fired.
Well, and that's the bottom line. That's what you're hoping for in any time you have a concealed weapon, is that it's worn more often than it's actually fired.
Right. And reading through some other reviews of this pistol online, there seems to be earlier models. There seem to be some mixed reviews with them having issues with the pistol not indexing or having problems with it unloading or actually striking. And what was determined to be the focus of these problems and the root of these problems was using reloaded ammo. So I've found that through what I've read and in my use, if you used factory ammo, it functioned flawlessly and the case is ejected without any kind of swelling or deformation or having to poke it with a stick or anything.
Well, see, here's the thing. You know, you've had some problems with even factory ammo in the past.
I have.
So you figure that anytime you get something from the factory, the manufacturing standards are such that you would never have to experience that. But you know, you take your life in your own hands when you start using that remanufactured ammo. What would be called blemished from the factory. That's what I've seen it described as. You know, what do you think of that? Do you think that's just as safe?
I'm not a fan of factory seconds on ammunition. Ammunition is a first run item for me. Something else I did want to point out about this small pistol is that it is not rated for plus P ammunition. So it is standard pressure ammunition only. I would, just due to its small size, I don't think I'd want to risk it. If it's not rated for it, I don't think it should be fired. Now, that being said, it is an all-metal pistol, and it looks fairly stout, and if you had to whap somebody upside the head with it, it would probably hurt like a sumbitch.
So you're not saying that this is of the ghost gun variety that is easily concealable?
It's very easily concealable. It's quite easily concealable. I mean, seriously, it's my wallet is thicker than it.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're going to want.
And I'm not like, big ball of shot collar.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't have.
You need to show it off as a status symbol.
Right. So I'm not necessarily a fan of the second class ammo for that. I'm going to stick with good quality prime manufactured ammo until I get to a point where
ammo, as we like to call it.
Right. I will stay away from aluminum cased ammunition in the future as well. I'm not necessarily. I used to shoot a lot of that in the past. My recent experience with some of it and the extra care that's required for it doesn't necessarily fit my lifestyle and agenda right now. So I'm going to stay away from the aluminum case, and I'll spend $2 a box more, or I won't save the $2 a box that I normally save buying the aluminum cased ammo. So
yeah, well, that's one of the things that I think people take from time to time as a sign of the economy. Whether you're going to spend all the money you got buying the first run factory ammo, or you're going to do a little bit of bargain shopping and get something that may be of a little lesser quality.
Well, and see, this is somewhere where I'm kind of picky. I don't think I'm going to skimp on quality on ammo. Now that doesn't mean that I need to have a fancy box. I don't need to have zombie logos. I just need the ammunition to work well. So I've gotten a problem buying military surplus ammo, which I would not consider to be second.
Right.
I would consider to be first run, top quality ammo. But it comes packaged plainly. There's no enticing packaging for marketing purposes or anything, and you have to buy a certain amount. And I prefer to buy that. And personally, I really like PMC ammo at this moment. I find it to be wonderful. It's all electronically tested, which means they run a current through it to find any kind of dead rounds, and I've never had a problem with it. I like it a lot.
And that's one of the things. PMC manufactures the X-Tac brand of the 5.56 ammunition. So it's
right.
I would say it's a good quality, but it's a bulk cartridge. You're going to be able to shoot probably for the same amount of money a lot more ammunition than you would spending the money from Federal American Eagle.
That's right. Sometimes that box of 20 really adds up. You'll spend 80 rounds, or you'll spend the same for 80 rounds of the 20-round boxes that you would for 300 rounds of a bulk box.
Yeah. So speaking of, first run factory ammunition, what do you think of the Norinco 223 and 5.56 ammunition that's starting to flood the market from our friends of the Oriental persuasion?
I've not seen any Norinco ammunition on the market for years, to be honest with you. I was not under the impression that Chinese ammunition was coming back. Is it?
Well, I've actually seen 2 different listings in the last couple of days, different folks in different portions of my state that are selling Norinco yellow box ammunition.
Wow. Okay, now I would say that that's not actually coming back in. That's probably something that somebody pulled out of a stash.
It could be. They were selling them. They were selling them in cans. So,
well, I'll tell you, the yellow box 9mm Norinco was really good. The yellow box rifle ammo from Norinco in 7.62 by 39 was also really good. There was also China Sports ammo, and there was some Polytech ammo that was all made by the Norinco factory as well. I never had any problem with it. I used to shoot the shit out of that. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but man, we'd go into Jensen's and I'd take $25, which was a considerable amount of money in those days, and I'd walk out with a wad of Chinese ammo.
Well, not only that, when you're talking the 7.62 by 39, you were able to get the Romanian manufactured ammo and get it in the 20-round boxes, and you could walk out there with quite a bit.
Well, yeah, I think the Romanian ammo was even cheaper than the Chinese ammo there for a while.
Right.
But yeah, since the ban in '94, I haven't seen like any new production Chinese ammo. And to be honest with you, well, I'd take it and shoot it for like plinking or go bust some paper or some targets or something. I don't necessarily think I'd use Norinco ammunition as self-defense unless it was like the last box on the face of the earth kind of a thing. Just because it's old. And to be honest with you, it's 115 grain, full metal jacket. It is non-corrosive for the most part. Well, that's being said and done, there's plenty around here that's cheaper and fresher.
Yeah, that you wouldn't have to worry about the impact of not only the firearm itself, but actually the business end of the deal too.
Well, and not that I've had the problem, but there's always the worry of a squib round, where you've got an undercharged load or something where you don't get a complete detonation and the bullet stops halfway down the barrel.
Yeah,
I think that maybe it's just the risk that's the risk I don't want to take.
Well, that's the thing, you take a look at this,
I think
you run the risk anytime you get, some of the older military surplus that's out there. I see ads for that all the time, whether it's, Egyptian manufacturer or something that's, real old skin. Hands if you go ahead and use that stuff.
Well, personally, I have a rule that says I have to be able to read the box.
Oh, I hope you read German.
Even if it's in another language, I have to be able to to read the box and make something out of it. If it's in squiggle language, I don't generally buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Squiggle language could be Thai, could be Korean, could be Japanese.
It could be some sort of Arabic. I have no idea. I have no idea. It's squiggle, and it's not in English, or it's not in any sort of Arabic lettering. And I'm sorry.
You want the Latin lettering.
Right, and it's not worth my it's not worth my worry to try and save the few dollars on it.
Well, Michael, I just had a fleeting thought. I was thinking of the children. It reminded me that we need to cover the 4 rules of firearm safety.
That's right. Well, first rule is every firearm is loaded until you physically and visually verify that it is not loaded. So go ahead and break open the action, drop the magazine out, pull that slide back, flip the cylinder out, crack it open, pull the bolt back, however you got to do it. Make sure that there is not a bullet in the chamber. Rule number 2 is know where the muzzle is pointed at all times. Don't cover anything with that muzzle that you don't intend to destroy. Rule number 3, know what is your target and know what is beyond your target at all times. And Nick, I say it every week, but this is the most important rule out there. Keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon. Don't put your finger in the trigger guard. Don't caress the trigger. Don't try and feel your new textured trigger or anything until you're ready to shoot the gun.
Ah, there you go. Sage advice. Nobody was ever killed from sage advice.
No, and if they did, it was because like a big box of it fell on.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think that
it's the advice to put that box on the top shelf in the first place.
Yeah, I think that I saw a sign in my local Walmart that said, due to limited stock on hand, 22 caliber rimfire ammunition is limited to 1 box per customer. It was interesting that there were 0 boxes on the shelf.
So 0 customers. 22 is available pretty much everywhere. It's not necessarily available at Walmart because Walmart employees aren't good about keeping those purchase limits. But it's at all the gun shops, and it's all at my big box, which is Academy. Academy still has limits, but they've still got plenty of it. All the gun shops have it, and I think their prices are far too high. I believe I sent you some pictures of like take a look at this.
Yeah, look what you have.
$545, and it was like Remington Golden Bullet or something.
Yeah,
9 cents a round for what is about double. So it's there. Don't get suckered into paying too much. Just be patient and maybe shoot something else for a while. 9mm is cheap. Actually, I got an email the other day where I could buy as much 9mm I wanted to at 14 cents a round.
Yeah.
So, like for $14,000, I could buy 100,000 rounds of 9mm, which would be 2 pallets. I'm not necessarily going to do that.
Well, so check this out. I just dropped a knowledge bomb in chat. Brought up a story about the Monmouth County, New Jersey police doing a firearm buyback program where they're going to be so generous and offer up to $100 for pistols, $200 for assault rifles, and $25 for shotguns for citizens to turn them in. Quick take on that.
I'll tell you, $200 for an assault rifle, quote unquote assault rifle. Yeah, that's a screaming deal. $100 for a pistol. Yeah, that's a screaming deal. And $25 for a shotgun. Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you're in that area, go ahead and double those prices, and you're making out.
Yeah, and here's the thing: since you're in New Jersey, they probably don't do that whole person-to-person sale thing, so they kind of got the market cornered, don't you think?
Yeah. Might be interesting to see if somebody was to set up a few blocks away and say, I've got an FFL here, and we'll do the transfer right now.
Yep.
Hey, that's it.
That's it.
Nick, thanks a lot.
No problem. Want to say a shout out to a friend of PrimerTime, Chris. Keep listening. Jules, thanks for having us. Listeners in chat, thanks a lot.
Hey, everybody, UCY.TV, giving you what you want. Thanks a lot, guys. Geoengineering, watch up next. Thanks a lot, Jules. Appreciate the channel, man. Thank you. Everybody be good.